Okay,
That's right.
cool. So maybe we'll just all, wherever you are, welcome. We'll just take a really, maybe shake out anything you need to. We'll just get comfortable and take a big breath to begin together. All right, cool. We'll let everyone keep rolling in, but we'll jump on in because we have so much to cover today. Shawn, I'm so excited that you're here. And I speak on behalf of everyone here. We won't be able to see you all today, but you can interact with us, ask us questions, commentary, tell us where you're from, what you want to know, and all of that can be done in the Q&A feature. So we won't be using the chat, but the Q&A is live and ready for you to use. And before I jump in, just a couple housekeeping notes. I do have to mention that Shawn and I are not your healthcare practitioner. So we'd love to answer so many questions that you have today. But if you do have a specific question pertaining to perhaps an individual health issue or something that you're personally dealing with, we can't go there. And we recommend working with a health practitioner for that. And beyond that, we're just so grateful to be with you and to talk about this really important subject at such an important time in our worlds right now. So I'm sure you all know Shawn, but for those that are new, I'm going to share a little bit about you, Shawn, and then we'll jump right in and I'll pass the mic over. So Shawn Stevenson is the author of the international best-selling book, Sleep Smarter, and creator of the Model Health Show, featured as the #1 health podcast in the US with millions of listener downloads each year. A graduate of the University of Missouri, St. Louis, Shawn studied business, biology, and nutritional science, and went on to be the founder of Advanced Integrative Health Alliance, a company that provides wellness services for individuals and organizations worldwide. Shawn has been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, the New York Times, Muscle and Fitness, ABC News, ESPN, and many other major media outlets. And we'll give you all information after this about how to keep in touch with Shawn and stay up to date about what he's up to. But welcome. Thanks for being with us today.
I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
My wife just got me this new little earpiece, little headphone thing, so I feel like Mariah Carey right now. It's that time of year. I don't know why I said Mariah Carey. It's just that time of year, I guess.
She keeps popping up on Netflix lately. So I think she's in all of our consciousness and that like Christmas spirit.
Right. This is her time. Like she's just rating every year like,
Yep.
You know I'm about to intercept everything in your life. So all the memes have been amazing, So I'm just excited to be here. And this is such an important topic, like you said, especially right now, there was a shift taking place. Like our sleep quality was actually starting to improve as a culture. And I'm grateful for that. I really worked, this was around, 2015 to really impress upon our society the essential need for optimizing our sleep health. And since then, the craziest things have taken place. And I'm a nutritionist, so this was out of necessity. Working in my clinical practice, we would design incredible programs and help folks with their exercise regimens, all that stuff. But there was always a percentage of folks who just wouldn't get the results everyone else was getting. And we really had the nutrition thing dialed in because it was based on them.
Yep.
And it took years, like about 8 years in clinical practice before I actually thought to ask people about their sleep quality. And when I did, I could not believe what people were telling me. They'd be like, I get up, every couple of hours, I just check my email and, just these stories start coming out. And it was just, for me, it was just like, no wonder you're not getting the results. And so here's the thing about us as humans. We want change, but we often don't want to change that much. All right. We want change, but we often don't want to change that much because we're creatures who are very driven by certainty. And this is why we feel so off right now. There's so much uncertainty. And so I know from my experience that I need to find some clinically proven strategies folks can implement without having to turn their world upside down to get these results. And once folks started implementing these things, finally, folks who were struggling with their blood sugar, being over 200 and they're on metformin, they're finally able to normalize their blood sugar without medication, finally able to get off, their lisinoprils or, helping to reduce their symptoms of anxiety and depression and finally get the weight off. Like the list went on and on. I could not believe it. And I could not believe that this wasn't a bigger part of the conversation. So, since then, the book has, become an international bestseller. It's translated in like 20 different languages. So it's like people tag me every day. Like they're in a library in Japan, or like they're in like Slovenia, they're in, Germany. It's just amazing, amazing. But most importantly, this conversation has become a part of popular culture, and now here's the rub. Today, since this occurrence has taken place, we've seen a dramatic increase in erratic sleep patterns and folks experiencing insomnia and all manner of issues related to our sleep. So it's more important than ever. And today, of course, we're going to go through some of these things, but most importantly, we have to start at the foundational part, which is, why does it matter so much?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that introduction. And I have had such similar experiences as a clinician, as an herbalist and nutritionist. And really, the practice that I focus on is called vitalism. And we've chatted about this before, but that's why functional mushrooms are so relevant to this conversation, and why I think we're both so passionate about them, is really looking at someone's health as a whole system and not treating symptoms, but really looking at the cause. And so often people would come to me as well and say, I'm experiencing headaches or weight issues or stress, or, the whole range of, and they never considered, well, how's my sleep quality? It's like, what can I do in the day? I want something to be more productive, be more focused, be more creative. And those end up being these quick fixes. And the actual issues don't go away until we look at, okay, where is this stemming from? And it almost feels too simple to so many people, like, wait, my sleep is that critical? And when we start looking at the physiology and the science behind what's happening when we're in that deep state of sleep, I mean, it is our full reset button, right? It's like, this is the foundation of course, where we are able to rest so that we can rise the next day with the energy, with the vitality that we're all looking for. So yeah, let's dive in. Why? I mean, I think we've kind of been dancing around it, but why is sleep so important?
Yeah, you just hit one of the important tenets on the head, because it's hard to believe that it can do so much because we don't do anything to get the benefits.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive. Like, I do nothing and I'll lose more weight. I'll do nothing and my mind will work better. I'll do nothing and my heart and my cardiovascular system will work better. Yeah. And so here's where we start. Number one, I think it's important to tie to some of our most prized vanity metrics, and also some of the kind of shocking health conditions that are tied to our sleep quality. So there was a really wonderful meta-analysis, of 14-year study, tens of thousands of patients tracking their personal care practices and their impending health issues. And the study, a 14-year study, found that folks who were not getting adequate amounts of sleep, so we're talking like 5 hours and under in this particular study, these folks had a 50% increased incidence of having heart attacks.
Wow.
Right? And this was checking for all manner of other typical metrics. So like accounting for age, sex, ethnicity, all this stuff. Sleep was found to be the most remarkable metric in determining whether or not these folks are having a heart attack. All right. So the numbers for stroke are very similar. You got about a 2 times increased incidence of having a stroke, 2 to 3 times. So that's on the cardiovascular side. Now let's talk about one of the things that's really on a lot of folks' mind right now, the function of our immune system. Now, this study was published in Psychoneuroendocrinology recently. And one of the things that was fast-tracked by the FDA, as they're working to find a drug that actually targets our natural killer cells, part of our adaptive immune system, because they were found to be so effective at killing infected cells from this particular virus, our natural killer cells. And so this study found that sleep deprivation was directly correlated with the suppression of our natural killer cells production and activity. Right? It was like a 1-to-1 thing. When we're sleep deprived, our natural killer cells, the production and activity is suppressed. And the researchers concluded that when you're sleep deprived, it radically increases your susceptibility to infection. All right. This is a big modulator and driver of our immune function, is our sleep quality. And a big reason behind that is that it's kind of like a changing of the guard takes place with what's happening with our microbiome, which the vast majority of our immune system is rooted really in our gut.
Yep.
And so as the day goes on, we actually have this tendency towards our more, quote, friendly microbes. Those numbers start to go down as the pathogenic microbes start to kind of wake up, and kind of there's like a shift in what's happening. There's like a circadian timing system with our microbes as well, not just our human cells. So please know, one of the biggest determinants of our immune system health, and if we look at our behavior, oftentimes when we've gotten sick, it's generally tied to being sleep deprived for a lot of people. You know, like we could be eating the best diet, that we've traveled, we start changing time zones, and we get sick, you know. And oftentimes it's not that we, quote, catch a bug. We all carry pathogenic, you know, microbes along with us, pathogenic viruses and fungi and bacteria. We just carry it around. Like strep, for example. Hundreds of millions of people have strep all the time, but it doesn't create an infection until their immune system is compromised, right? And the question would be, well, why would humans have these so-called pathogenic or opportunistic bacteria? And really, it's because they do play a role, you know, and it's the ratio. As long as they're kept in check, that what's considered a pathogenic bacteria could be creating vital B12 for us, or helping to produce scaphas that protect our gut lining, that help to reduce autoimmunity. There's a delicate, beautiful balance, a symbiotic relationship we evolved with. So that's another point of emphasis. So number one, resistance or defense against chronic diseases. Number two, resistance or defense against infectious diseases or opportunistic diseases. And number three, which we could talk about so many, but I want to give a vanity metric here. And this is our body composition. So our sleep quality is one of the largest determinants of our physical body and our appearance. And this was highlighted in a study from researchers at University of Chicago. And they took test subjects and, you know, put them through a conventional calorie restricted diet program and allowed them to get 8.5 hours of sleep. Another phase of the study they sleep deprived them. They took 3 hours of sleep away. Same diet though, okay? Nothing else changed. The only thing that changed was the sleep. And when folks were adequately rested, they lost 55% more body fat simply from sleeping more, all right? And the question is, again, how am I able to burn more fat by doing nothing? Mm-hmm. And this is because sleep is right at the top of the list of what's controlling your hormones. Yep. All right. And so one more metric I'm going to share with you guys, and this is what I really focused on in Eat Smarter in the new book, is how our sleep and associated nutrition affects our cognitive performance. And so a study, and this was published in PLOS One, they found that our sleep quality is most clearly shown to affect things like our procedural memory. So this is like skills and like procedures, just being able to do technical stuff. Also, it was found to directly control your declarative memory. So this is like recall of facts. So just like the stuff that everybody's learning right now. Our sleep is right at the top of the list, like the top 3 things that's controlling our declarative memory. And they also found that the impact of sleep on our declarative memory, for example, researchers split a group of test subjects into 2 groups. One group was given a declarative memory task at 9 a.m. in the morning and then tested for recall at 9 p.m. Okay, so this is 12 hours later without any sleep. Okay. Another group was tested at given the declarative memory task at 9 p.m., then allowed to get a full night's sleep and retested them at 9 a.m. And here's what happened. Even though there was same 12 hours time span between them, the folks who were allowed to sleep performed 21% better on their declarative memory test than the folks who didn't get a good night's sleep. Wow. So directly, our sleep controls our memory. Our sleep controls our cognitive performance. And so all of this together should highlight how valuable our sleep is at really controlling how we look, how we feel, and how we perform.
Amazing. It's so simple and it's so amazing. When you look at that, it was like mind-blowing facts one after the other. And I was having some revelations as you were talking about that as well. I mean, the last time I got sick was several years ago because I take a lot of functional mushrooms every day. And it was after being at Standing Rock. If you remember Standing Rock, and I was working as an herbalist there. And it was really the last time that I didn't get full nights of sleep. And this literally hasn't clicked until you were just saying this, but I was I was thinking I was freezing cold. I was around lots of people. I mean, there's so many external things that I've blamed that sickness on. And the biggest piece, I mean, that I'm realizing now is I was working 20 hours a day, and I would go and take little naps and go back to the herbal tent. And that sleep is, I mean, critical. And yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, how have I not thought of that before? So, and then, yeah, with so many people I've worked with as well, it's even just lying in bed more. It's like if you're working with people, that are dealing with weight issues, or it's like sometimes I'm like, okay, they can't get 8 hours of sleep a night. I'm like, literally just lay in bed. Like, no, it can't be that simple. I'm like, yeah, it can. Like, I want you to just not get out of bed for another, 2 or 3 hours and allow your body to literally rest. And that what happens when you wake from that is profound. And when we think about what we're all focusing on today, immune health, stress support, I mean, rather than, okay, how can I take something directly for my immune system, we're really winding it back. And it's like our bodies evolved to be strong and, have a vital immune system and have energy and have memory retention. And yet, if we're not given those basic tools, then we're not going to perform when the task is at hand, whatever that might be. So,
Yeah, this is actually so important for everybody to understand today, is that in my conversation with pioneering cell biologists, uh, epigenetics, Dr. Bruce Lipton, he's a person who really highlighted this for me many years ago, and how much sleep is an epigenetic controller, literally determining what our genes are doing. And now we have so much data since I learned that from him, so much data affirming this. Like one of the reports, and this was in Neuroscience Reports, peer-reviewed journal, very prestigious, found that our sleep quality directly controls what's happening with our DNA. All right. This is the stuff that makes us.
yeah.
This is the stuff that makes your immune system, like at its core, this is something that is controlling what everything else is doing. So it is that profound. And of course, today we're going to go and just dive in this, like, so what are some real world practical things that we can do just to stack conditions in our favor to have a foundation of high quality rest and recovery, especially in a world that's hyper stressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into that, there's some really awesome questions coming in that I feel like are relevant to kind of this part of the conversation and just the foundation of sleep. And Sherry asked a great question. She's asking if you can talk a little bit deeper about circadian rhythms. She said she heard you on Dr. Mark Hyman's podcast that 2 to 10 or that 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is standard and other 4-hour cycles workable. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Okay, yes. So I really do not like to speak in generalities very often, because as I'm highlighting, especially in this new work and just what I did in my clinical practice, is that we are so unique. We're all metabolically unique. There's never been anybody like you in the history of humanity who's had a metabolism like yours, or in all the millions of years to come. Nobody will ever be like your unique you right now. You won't even be like you a week from now, or even when we're back in high school or in college. Our metabolism is unique to this moment. And so even our relationship with our circadian timing system, and what that really means is, because that can even sound like a little bit of a kind of mystical, I don't know, kind of thing, but this is a very, very, very real thing that's controlling everything about us, all the production of our hormones, our neurotransmitters, what our endocrine system is doing at every single microsecond of the day is dependent upon our biological clock, our body's cellular built-in circadian timing system that's aligned with nature. Now, here's the thing about humans. We can try and hide out from nature, basically. We can manufacture constant daytime, but we evolved for millions of years to get to this point, and we didn't have the ability to do that. We're only now doing it, and that's why we have such dramatic, terrible effects when we get so disconnected from the rest of what nature's doing. And so with that body clock, again, this is determining hormone production, your neurotransmitters. This is also determining your gastrointestinal health, what your microbes are doing, as I highlighted a little bit earlier. It's determining what's happening with your cardiovascular system, your uh, your your stress hormone production, the catecholamines. The list goes on and on, all controlled by how we're lining up with the earth revolving around the sun. All right, this is all determining what our bodies are doing. And so with that said, one of the things that we really strive to do is to get ourselves synced up with that, but also understand our unique metabolic and sleep, unique sleep fingerprint or sleep print, pillow print. All right. So our unique pillow print. And so the hard line when I'm saying, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., that's what one of the best pieces of data we have found is that you get a greater increase in human growth hormone production when you're sleeping during that time window. But that's not true for everybody. All right. So even if you're getting to bed at midnight and you're sleeping, like whatever, it's not just the window, but it's also the other things that go around it. So I don't want folks to be neurotic about trying to get to sleep at 10 p.m. because that's not how life works. And also, again, it's going to depend on the time of year. It's depending on how far you are from the equator. There's so many other factors.
Yeah.
It's just getting into a groove of what feels good for you. But it's being mindful that your body is wanting desperately to get synced up with nature, to get synced up with the diurnal patterns of the earth, the daytime and nocturnal patterns of the earth. We are a part of nature. And the sooner we can remember that, the sooner we can really fix some of our most pressing issues.
Speaking my language, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, it's so important. I was just writing something this morning about how can we find even the simplest ways to remember that connection. And it's so true when we're outside all day, which is we have to remember how we evolved, right? And our bodies evolved to have this natural rhythm with the earth, with the sun. When it gets dark, we naturally get tired, we fall asleep. When the sun begins to come up, right, there's this whole cascade of hormonal production that's happening in our body that signals us it's time to wake up, and we have energy. And so yeah, sometimes it's really going back to like nature knows best and going back to the most simple basics to kind of bring us back into that state of overall wellness and health. So, okay, beyond syncing up our bodies, we can even talk about more practical ways to start really syncing and remembering that innate connection to nature and that we are earthlings. Let's go into, and I promise everyone we'll have time for questions because you're all having amazing questions that are coming in. But other practical things that people can do, right? Maybe something that I'm really excited to jump into is this piece about nutrition and food and this whole idea of eating for sleep, right? So we hear all the time the external things, right? Keep it cool in your room and use blue blockers, and those are all awesome. But I'd love to talk more about what we can basically do internally to enable us to get that deep sleep.
Yes, absolutely. So I touched on this in my last book. It's a really wonderful small chapter because, I shared 21 clinically proven strategies. So it's just so much on sleep. But in the new book, I really expanded, and it's a chapter called Edible Sleep. All right. So this is chapter 8. And it really starts with this underlying premise in a brand new study that recently came out. And this is published in the peer-reviewed journal Sleep Medicine. They found that negative changes to your microbiome have substantial detrimental effects on the quality of your sleep. All right. What's happening in your gut is controlling what's happening with your sleep quality. We often think of sleep as a head thing. All right. But this gut brain sleep connection, this gut brain axis is one of the most important things to optimize to improve our sleep quality, because truly you can do all the things, you can do all the external things.
Yep.
But if you're even deficient in a key nutrient that creates your sleep related hormones and neurotransmitters, you can struggle to get good sleep because of those things. But it all starts with what's happening with our microbiome. And this goes back to something that we'll highlight as we go along, but the role of our neurotransmitters and our hormones. Because when we talk about sleep and those pathways, these are the things that are actually controlling and determining what our bodies are doing. Mm-hmm. And so it starts with, number one, we can talk about serotonin. All right. Serotonin is really noted to be kind of like a good mood neurotransmitter. It's like an anti-stress neurotransmitter. When serotonin is being produced, like things just kind of feel good. It's like a feel-good thing.
Yep.
Now, here's the rub. A 2017 study found that low levels of serotonin can directly contribute to chronic insomnia. All right. And it's just like, what's going on there? Well, serotonin is actually a precursor to melatonin. Right? It's a precursor. It's like a seed to build it. And melatonin is really considered to be our glorified, quote, sleep hormone. But here's what melatonin really is. Melatonin is a master regulator of your circadian timing system that we just talked about, and you being synced up in the production of all your hormones, the production of all your neurotransmitters, your digestion, your metabolism. Melatonin is one of the hormones, the master hormones controlling all of it. So please don't let them put melatonin in this pithy little box. It's just a sleep hormone. It is so much more than that. It's also a very powerful anti-cancer hormone as well. And one of the studies that we highlighted was, nurses who were doing shift work and working overnight, having 25, 30% greater incidence of having breast cancer. And researchers eventually discovered that this was due to abnormal production of melatonin. All right, so it's a very protective, very important hormone. All right, now, just to take a step back. So how does all this stuff work? When I was in college, sitting in my, fancy university classes, my teacher told me melatonin is produced in your pineal gland. That's it. Move on. Next page, end of story. There's so much more, so much more. And what we now know today is that there's upwards of 400 times more melatonin in your gut than in your brain. All right. 400 times more. And even having your pineal gland removed, the levels of melatonin still stay relatively the same in your gut. And this is thanks in part to the enterochromaffin cells, but also it's the relationship Caltech researchers found, the communication between bacteria in your gut and the cells in your gut. All right, your human cells and your bacteria cells, to basically instruct your body on the production of melatonin and other sleep-related hormones and neurotransmitters. So this is important. What you put in your mouth affects your production of melatonin. Okay. So hopefully this is, again, laying the groundwork of optimizing our gut health. And we want to avoid things that damage our microbiome. So we want to be careful about haphazard use of antibiotics, for example, which now finally, it's literally been like the last couple of years that medicine, conventional protocols are like stepping back and not being so judicious. I mean, not judicious, but like so overgiving with antibiotics for everything, even if it's not a bacterial infection, And so I would have patients coming in, this is absolutely true, that have been on antibiotics every day for 20 years. All right.
Wow.
For a skin issue. This is for me, when I found it out, like I could not believe it. So you probably can't believe it right now. Like, how is that? And of course, like they're trying to do other things with their health and just wondering why they're not getting these results. Their internal terrain is just destroyed, And so, but good news is they had a good ending to their, experience with me. They were able to, it's like autoimmune skin related issue, and we're able to finally be free of that situation. But here's the thing. In addition to this connection with this sleep gut connection, avoiding haphazard use of antibiotics also, we want to be careful about taking in, what we would consider like naturally occurring antibiotics as well, which is not really natural. If chlorine is being added to your water, your municipal water, but we just think it's normal,
right.
And chlorine is a very strong antibiotic. It's designed to kill the microbes in the water. And so your body, you're mostly made of microbes. Your gut terrain is mostly microbes. There's far more microbe cells than human cells. And so it's just going through and just having a nice drive-by shooting in your gut. No big deal. Or is it? It is absolutely a big deal. We cannot accept this as normal. Now, of course, we're just like, well, what do you want to do to treat the water? That's a whole different topic. All right. I don't want you drinking, doo-doo laced water. Okay. We're not saying that. We do want protocols to get our clean water supply, but there are so many, but we just get caught in this conventional thing and just accept the side effects of something that's not normal. There's so many better methods, but right now, here's another really important thing is that they did a study. They tested water from Southern California all the way to Northern New Jersey, looking at the water supply coming through 41 million Americans' homes, right? Coming right through their faucet. Yeah. And they found traces of over 20 pharmaceutical drugs coming through people's faucets. So this is, there was traces of chemotherapy medications, blood pressure medications, antidepressants, the list goes on. And it's just like, how is that coming through our faucet? It's because of we are taking things we've never taken before. And those metabolic waste products, we're peeing and pooping them out, and they're getting back, into our rivers and our oceans, and it's just a hydrological cycle. We're all existing in a bubble. We know about the NBA bubble. We're living in a bubble ourselves, and we can't escape these things as we're tinkering with all of this stuff. And also there's programs of it's called toilet to tap as well. So it's being looked at as a way to address some of our water needs. So get something to get rid of chlorine. And also you might as well get rid of some of these other things that can cause dysbiosis with your gut. I'm a big fan of spring water, well water. However, because just again, that's what we've evolved with. If you're just getting what's coming through your faucet, get yourself a reverse osmosis system. It doesn't have to be super fancy, but please note that you need to restructure. You need to give that water some intelligence, some structure. When I was in school, again, I was taught water is H2O. No, that's not. It's not H2O. H2O doesn't exist anywhere in nature by itself. It doesn't. Water is a universal solvent. Water is in the environment with other things integrated with it. And so when we create blank H2O, that water doesn't have the structure to also cross over your blood-brain barrier into your brain and to hydrate your brain properly. You need those electrolytes. That's how you have the electrical currents. The electrical energy in your brain is from the electrolytes that we largely get in through our water. All right. So just simply recharging the water, some salt, some high quality salt, a little bit of, fruits or veggies. They have electrons to donate as well. There's liquid mineral drops. There's so many different ways. But again, to protect your microbiome, I highly recommend if you can. And again, I know this stuff is kind of freaky. I don't want us to be neurotic. I will drink tap water if need be, rather than me seeing mirages and dying of thirst. I'll do it. But if I can do something better, I do. All right. So that's what we do. We just do things a little bit better if we can. And I'll share one more really quickly with protecting our microbiome. What really contributes to so much dysbiosis, where we have pathogenic bacteria, viruses, we also have a virome, the human virome. These things really kind of start to throw off our circadian clock, thanks in part to our consumption of fake foods, right? Highly processed foods. Everybody's talking about fake news right now. Fake news, fake news. What about the fake foods? All right, that's what we really need to be talking about, because I highly believe the fake foods are creating the fake news. Yeah. The propensity for us to do those things. But this is what I really want to be mindful of. And also some of the data that I shared in the new book is we know now that it's not a joke. It's not just oh, these foods are bad for you. Everybody knows it. No, we've got the data now. Directly, this is going to disrupt your microbiome and your healthy flora and increase the levels of pathogenic bacteria and also reduce the diversity of your microbiome, which has a whole tail of other issues we could talk about. And so we want to, to the best we can, avoid, and for the folks listening to this, that's not really going to be an issue. And it's okay. I'm going to have some sweet potato pie or whatever. It's okay. We can upgrade, of course, the ingredients and stuff we have. And if we do have whatever, but it's just making it the exception and not the rule. I know many folks that are here grew up like I did, I grew up in the 80s. So it's just the golden age of cereal and fast food, the birthing of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and, Captain Crunch berries, I came up in that, and it's not okay. It's not okay. It's damaged us on so many levels. And so these are things to avoid. And a last little slice I'll mention here, and then we can circle back and talk about some of the more practical things we could do to
Yeah, no, this is amazing.
provide our good sleep nutrients for our bodies.
Yeah.
Is we also want to not just avoid things that damage our microbiome, but bring in good things that support the health of our microbiome and the diversity. And so that means this doesn't mean taking a probiotic supplement. I've been talking about probiotics for 15 years. That's great to take a probiotic, sure, but the probiotics will not proliferate and take hold in your gut unless they have their preferred food source.
Yep.
It's just how it works. So you might do an elimination diet and pull out a food that your particular strain of microbes, absolutely for you to thrive, loved and needed to stick around. And now like you're having, it worked for you for a little while, but now you're having a swing over here and you're wondering why, like now, like I lost weight, but now I'm like having these like allergies or whatever, you know? We have to be mindful of feeding our microbes what they want, which is the prebiotics. So prebiotics come in, there's so many different types, but just a couple of quick things. Inulin. So good prebiotic foods, I'll just throw these out really quickly. Asparagus, leeks, Jerusalem artichoke, garlic, onions, list on and on and on. But also the biggest thing you guys are going to be hearing about in upcoming years, I'm going to make sure this is resistant starch. Resistant starches. Wow. All right. Our microbes that, you know, we got firmicutes and bacterometes, this ratio, so the more positive that are associated with a healthier body composition, the bacteroidetes, they love resistant starch. All right. So that's like unripe bananas is a source of resistant starch. So as it's greener, it's actually really high in starch. And as it becomes more yellow, the sugar content starts to switch over. Right. So, but the starch, but nobody wants to eat a green banana though. You know, let's be honest. You could take a little piece, maybe throw it in a smoothie. There's green banana flour. But also, even when it gets to the sweet part, when it's sweet, there's still that little tip of the banana. You know, some people call it the devil's anus. That's not tasty either. You know what I mean? So, but if we could just get the banana a little bit more unripe resistant starch, or there's resistant starch, is the crazy thing, and this is going to sound nuts, but we can't spend all day on this, but I'm just going to throw this out there.
Do it.
Colors of foods are associated with the nutrient content in the foods.
Yeah.
And this spectrum, yellow and beige, are the sources of resistant starch. So this includes things like white potatoes, you know, like those are supposed to be not, you know, white beans, grains, and also white rice. White rice is one of the most common sources of resistant starch folks consume in our world today. And I did a whole section in Eat Smart, it's called Rice, Rice Baby, talking about the difference with brown rice and white rice and just getting into the heart of it, because here's the end of the story. Everything is relevant. Everything has value. It's just how you use it. Yeah. So those are some things, adding in some prebiotics, eating probiotic foods as well, you know, a few times a week, sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, you know, kombucha is hottest thing on the streets. I live in California now. So it's like, I had an ice cream man in my neighborhood in St. Louis. Now I've got like a kombucha man. It's like a kombucha truck, you know, ding, ding. It's like, but the music he plays a little bit different. It's like more of like a Grateful Dead vibe to it, you know, but you know, that's what we got to do. Yeah. Prebiotics, probiotics, avoid things that damage your microbiome.
Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you. What an awesome kind of, so much there. I feel like we could dive into each one of the pieces that you mentioned and have a full hour on that. But I think it's really important for everyone to just meet yourself where you're at, you know, and there are so many things we can do. And I think it starts with just becoming more aware and mindful, you know, like you mentioned with our water. That's something that we're constantly, we spend so much time on things like water and the food that we're eating, and of course how much sleep we're getting, because these are unavoidable things that we're all doing every day. And how can we bring, you know, more mindfulness, more connection into those things? Remember that everything we're feeding our body is feeding the good or the bad, right? And even with that, there's a balance, right? When we talk about serotonin and that being a precursor to melatonin, it's like, okay, well, we can't put that much stress or weight on what we're doing either, because that's also detrimental, right? So be gentle on yourself. Like, we're all doing our best, and start with adding, I would suggest, you know, building from a foundation before, you know, depriving yourself of something that you might love, right? That joy that comes from just being and doing things that are pleasurable is incredibly important, just as, eating the right foods to create that foundation for your microbiome. And so, yeah, just a little plug there. And with the water piece, I mean, there's so many ways we can basically make that first little step in a direction towards fueling our body with a more pure form of water, and that could be, like you mentioned, like add a little pinch of Himalayan salt or squeeze some lemon in it, or chop up a cucumber and let that sit in your water to bring back some of that mineral content and those electrolytes, and then if you want to go to the next level, I just learned about a website called Find a Spring. Do you know of this, Shawn?
Of course, I helped to build that out.
You did? Okay, I never knew about this because I've been living in the mountains in Colorado where I had a spring. I was living in a town called El Dorado Springs. So it was like, I couldn't leave. I had spring water through the faucets and I had this tiny little cabin, but it was like, I have the spring water. And now living in Los Angeles, I'm like, water, what do I do? And so there are ways, there's springs everywhere. And I think even if it's just a project for people to say,
it's so cool. It's like fun to go and like quote harvest your water. And so my friend Daniel Vitalis built the original site, and I just told everybody, and I was like, get it, people, like go wherever in your town, ask questions, go to the local, the guy at the Sinclair station, the old like guru looking guy, ask him where the well is, like. And so we just got so many people around the country posting up pictures and different, putting on the location to find all these cool springs. So it's definitely a cool experience.
So amazing. I can't wait to go and find the springs. I'm like, I'm in a city now. What do I do? And I look up Find a Spring, and it's like, there's all these springs in the mountains behind Los Angeles. So what a fun project, when we can't go do the things that we're used to doing. It's like, let's go find springs and, think about our microbiome and be able to really, I mean, not only we're hitting so many, it's not more than killing two birds with one stone. It's killing like a lot. It's a horrible metaphor for this, but it's really, you're connecting to nature, right? You're being outside, you're breathing fresh air, you're finding your source of water. Like there's just, such a win-win. So I love that water connection. And then, this microbiome piece, I mean, we've heard it all the time. We are what we eat. And I encourage, everyone, like starting with just that mindfulness piece and that little bit of connection. And then thinking about, again, going to the root, just like sleep being the root to waking up and feeling vital. It's going to the root of what is actually feeding those healthy bacteria in our gut. And
you just said something so profound. You just said sleep being at the root of waking up. So good. So good. And by the way, I got to throw this out there too, is that there is definitely a very strong connection between dehydration and poor sleep quality because of what's happening with your glymphatic system in your brain. And those channels really being run, it's like a water medium. It's all happening with the detoxification of your brain happening while you're sleeping. That system is like 10 times more active. And so if we're not mindful of our hydration levels, like it's going to damage our sleep and also our body's ability to repair itself. So water's a huge piece. And of course, like I want to give, if we can, like 3 good sleep nutrients that I want everybody to get every day.
Let's do it.
Okay. The first one is like, I'm going to do one that's in popular lexicon related to sleep because of the connection with turkey, and it's tryptophan, right? Folks kind of just identify, like they get what's called the itis after having Thanksgiving dinner, but it's not the turkey. It's the sheer amount that we eat. Of course, it could be a little bit of a little bit of a side effect. But tryptophan is one of what's considered these 9 essential amino acids, meaning we can't produce them ourselves. But even this essential amino acid thing is starting to change, by the way, which is a whole different conversation. But it's a key building block for our sleep, tryptophan is, because a tryptophan deficiency has been found to directly parallel disruptions in our REM sleep, right? So rapid eye movement sleep. This is when a lot of memory processing takes place. So stuff that you're learning right now getting converted to your short-term memory, right? To be able to recall, like we talked about earlier, declarative memory, things like that. If we're deficient in tryptophan, our REM sleep gets disrupted. So some of the best sources of tryptophan, and I'll just go through a list, both plant and animal sources for folks, whatever your nutritional approach is. I just want to make sure you know and have, the data. So of course, turkey is on the list, but there's more in some other foods than turkey. But chicken, lobster is a really, really great source of tryptophan. Eggs, cheese, tofu, pumpkin seeds, spinach. Well, pumpkin seeds are a really good source of tryptophan, by the way. There's one really good one I'm missing here. Chocolate. Chocolate is a great source of tryptophan. All right. So you got the Reishi combination with the chocolate. Oh, come on. So then also spirulina. Spirulina is also a really interesting source of tryptophan and so many other sleep-related micronutrients as well. So micronutrients and macros. So there's a good list for tryptophan, and so you want to make sure you're getting a source, at least one source in each day. I would recommend 2 to 3 sources of tryptophan. All right. And it's pretty, like some of these foods are pretty common, like spinach, for example, like getting in a couple servings of some sauteed spinach, we can get some viable tryptophan from that. All right. So that's a really cool one. Also, let's see what I got for you guys. I want to give you guys something interesting and different.
Our plant-based protein. That's one of the 5 plant-based proteins sources that are part of our superfood blend. And yeah, we've never talked about that correlation before. So,
and I can't be with you guys and not mention this, but the Reishi connection, like this my favorite. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Reishi, it's my favorite thing to have in the evening, getting close to bedtime, is just to have a cup of Reishi. And the journal Pharmacology, Biochemistry, and Behavior, prestigious journal. This journal is dedicated. They're trying to find what drugs do what, natural herbs and things that have existed for, centuries. That's a tiny footnote to this journal. But here's what they found when they studied Reishi. The results were so remarkable. Reishi was found to improve sleep onset, meaning you fall asleep faster. It was found to improve your entire sleep efficiency, so your deep sleep and REM sleep. And it was found to help folks to sleep longer. So folks who had a tendency to wake up, they were able to have better wake after sleep onset. So a reduction in that. Mm-hmm. All from Reishi. All right. So, and what I love about Sigmatic is they do the dual extraction, because it's just like, what compounds in Reishi are working this magic? So we get all of the compounds, the hot water extract and the alcohol extract. So we get into triterpenes and the hormonal stuff. We get into beta glucans and all the, the associated, antioxidants. So freaking love Reishi. Just want to throw that out there. It's one of the reasons why even today I wanted to do this in relationship to sleep. This is just one of the things that I do in my life. So other good sleep nutrient, vitamin C. It's important. Obviously, folks know about it for the immune system, but this was cited in the journal Appetite and the journal PLOS One, Public Library of Science, demonstrated that insufficient intake of vitamin C increases the likelihood of sleep disturbances and shortens the duration of overall sleep time. Wow. So folks might be having interrupted sleep and they're just like, well, it's this external thing, it's that external thing. A simple vitamin C deficiency could be causing the problem. And so the 2009 study found that a combination of vitamin C and vitamin E together, taken twice daily, help folks who are struggling with sleep apnea to improve their sleep quality as well. So with vitamin C, this is so easy to get. It's so easy to get. Food first, I recommend, of course. There's, of course, the citrus family, bell peppers, all the common stuff, kiwi fruit. But then there's superfood sources, what are in this category: camu berry, amla berry, acerola cherry. So many great sources of vitamin C. All right. And we'll share one more with you guys. I said 3. Let me see if I can find one more interesting one. These are directly out of Eat Smarter. Oh, this one. I cannot not talk about this one. All right. So magnesium. This is well noted to be an anti-stress mineral, right? 56% of the United States population, not just deficient, they're chronically deficient in magnesium. And now we know it. 2 years ago, our best science found it was responsible for over 300 biochemical processes in the body. Now it's over 650 biochemical processes have been found to be controlled or related to magnesium. So when you're deficient in magnesium, it is serious business. That's 650 things that your body can't do or can't do properly. It is a big deal. And it's modulating stress and really interacting a lot with your nervous system. And so when you're like times like now, magnesium is just getting zapped from your body so quickly. And in relationship to our sleep, this was published in Pharmacological Reports, stated that magnesium is able to interact directly with inhibitory GABA receptors and induce anti-anxiety effects and help to relax our bodies and improve our sleep quality. All right. Magnesium is that deal. Great source of magnesium. Anything green is a great source of magnesium. Chocolate is a great source of magnesium. Plenty of nuts and seeds are great sources of magnesium. It's really, the thing about it, we need it so much, but it's so abundant in real foods. Yeah. But it's just, are we actually proactively getting in real foods? And also diversity, because here's another key thing I want everybody to remember today. There's not just one type of magnesium, all right? So the magnesium you're getting from one food is inherently not the same that you're getting from another food, right? And of course, it's okay to supplement as well, but if we can get whole food-based sources, it's gonna be ideal. And also topical magnesium. Hopefully I could take a magnesium bath tonight, some Epsom salt. It actually is, again, clinically proven to help improve sleep quality. So those are 3 good sleep nutrients that we need to target getting in each day.
Those are awesome. I want to have so much more commentary on all of them. I'm like, oh my God, where does our time go? But yes, magnesium, so huge. It's really, I think of like, how can we show up if we don't have the building blocks? And magnesium is so, it's the #1 mineral deficiency in the US population. Like and we wonder why we're all stressed and we can't sleep and all these things. And it's like our bodies are deficient in the mineral responsible for even enabling us to get to that place in the first place. So yeah, bringing on, like, think about filling up your cup with the things that your body needs to do its job, that it knows how to do and wants to do, but it needs certain building blocks, right? To be able to flow in that direction, whether it's energy or sleep. So magnesium's huge. Obviously, reishi is our beloved functional mushroom for today. And so cool that so many of the nutrients you mentioned are in mushroom cacao with reishi, which is what I've been sipping on. I'm like, yes, more and more we get to learn the deeper, compounds that are within our superfoods. We hear superfoods all the time. Like, what is that actually doing? And yeah, so thank you. I want to get to some questions. I feel like our time just flew. So
before we do, yes. I'll take 60 seconds and provide one more critical thing I think folks can do.
Yeah, bring it up.
Which is in getting back to that original question, because again, when these questions come in, there's multiple dimensions to some of these answers, but getting us synced back up, like our circadian timing system, one of the most simple ways to do that is getting some sun exposure in the early part of the day. All right. This, again, through our evolution, this is something we naturally do. And so what was found is that folks who got adequate sun exposure in the morning ended up having a reduction in their cortisol levels in the evening. All right. The sun actually causes your body produce more cortisol, but it's just like, is that bad? And also cause your body produce more serotonin, the precursor, but it helps to reset our cortisol rhythm, right? Our cortisol should elevate if we have a natural cortisol rhythm, it should be elevated in the morning and then bottom out in the evening. But clinically, I would see people who we call tired and wired, where their cortisol is too low in the morning, making it hard for them to get out of bed. And if I would get them on a 5-minute exercise program in the morning and getting some sun exposure, man, just within a matter of weeks, we help to normalize their sleep. And so those are 2 things: exercise, getting a little bit of exercise in the morning, even 5 minutes, and also getting some sun exposure. Ideally, it would be sun on your skin, but even if the sun is just shining into a window in your room, but don't spend a lot of time by the window in the sun, because the window doesn't allow all the spectrums of the sunlight to come through. And that's a whole different conversation. Yeah. But just being in a naturally lit room. And so right now, during this time of year, we see these uptick in different issues because we're not getting as much sun exposure. So just do the best you can. We have hacks for this as well. These are clinically prescribed lights that provide just different spectrums of light for light therapy that are clinically proven to reduce seasonal affective disorder and depression. It's for a reason. Like as humans, we need light exposure, but again, we get away from nature. So I just wanted to share that. It's something we can all start doing starting tomorrow morning. Get your behind some form of sun exposure. And also, if you can get in and just at least just 5 minutes of exercise, whatever it might be for you. You can do a little Tabata. You could do a little bit of, power yoga. You can go for a quick walk, jump on a rebounder. It's going to help you to sleep better at night. And it's clinically proven.
Thank you. That's so important. Again, that simplicity piece just keeps coming back. Walk outside, get sun on your skin, listen to your body when it's tired. I mean, yeah. Okay. Can we get to some of these? People are like,
yes,
amazing.
Let's do it.
The best questions. Okay, let's start with, I like Michelle had a really good, interesting question. She said she's heard that men and women have completely different needs in relation to sleep. Do women actually need more sleep than men? And if that's the case, how much more?
This is such a good question. I love questions like this. All right, so I'm going to give an unpopular answer. It depends on the woman and it depends on the man. It's unique to all of us. However, there is a tendency for women to be a little bit more, if we're talking about like the chronotypes, my friend Michael Bruce, being a little bit more bearish in the cuddly, sleep time. There is a little bit of a tendency in men to be more of like a little bit more of a driven, not always to be like the early riser. Again, it's just kind of built into our lineage a little bit, but it's not true across the board. There are millions of women who are just naturally early risers, but there is a slight tendency towards women soaking up or needing a little bit more sleep. And more so though, there's a much more really obvious need for teenagers and children to require more sleep than once we get into adulthood.
Great answer. Yeah, our bodies are unique. It keeps coming back to that. Listen to your body. We want to have these sweeping generalizations, and it's like, okay, your body will tell you. How can we do these little things to connect more to our bodies? Learn that we are, one of a kind, as you mentioned in the beginning. Yeah. This is a really cool question. It's from a birth doula, and she says that she noticed the power of sleep after coming home from being at a birth for sometimes multiple days. Her body was super broken down, migraines, fatigue, fog, nausea. She really had to change my work and my boundaries around how I prioritize sleep. How would you recommend, or what tips do you have for healthcare workers who work odd hours or extended shifts?
This is a fantastic question. And over the years, working at a university myself, I've worked with countless physicians, nurses, helping them with their own health problems, because our system of healthcare, unfortunately, does not take very good care of the people who are entrusted with taking care of us. It is it's a nightmare, as a good pair in today of being a nightmare. It's kind of like a badge of honor to drag physicians and nurses through the absolute dirt, through the mud, and just sleep deprive them and diminish their health. And it's just, we have to stop this. It's nonsense. So with that said, because we can actually perform better, do more, get more work done when we're actually feeling good. Yeah. And it's just like we've got the numbers now to show this. There's a better way, but we have to get away from the systems, because within that system also we see higher rates of depression and higher rates of suicide in these fields. We have to stop it. We have to do something about it. So sorry, but to answer this question, I'm very passionate about this. Yeah. For folks who are doing shift work or working odd hours, the number one thing that you have to understand is that your body is always looking for patterns. It is craving consistency. So you have to come to grips with the fact that if you are having an erratic schedule, your body is not going to be happy about it, and there's nothing you can do to change that. It's just the nature of it. So you have to do introspection. Just say, is this worth it for me? And if it is, that value and that joy is the only thing. When I said nothing can change it, it's the only thing that can supersede it somewhat, because of the goodness, those things also affect what's happening with the production of our hormones and our neurotransmitters as well. So that's a little bit of a positive. Now, there's good news here. I'm not saying to quit your job. We need you. We need you as a doula. But you don't want to feel like you personally just gave birth to 6 babies. You know what I mean? So here's the thing. We can start to operate, because also babies don't care about your schedule. Like, they don't care when they're coming, they're coming. But maybe you make a decision like, okay, well, maybe I'm going to work, handle some births, for, I don't know, a month. And then I'm going to take a month off, or whatever. Like, maybe it's not, and for you, financially, that might not be feasible. It's just like your body wants to have consistency. So as much as you can create, that's what you need to create. Here's a tendency is for babies to be born at night, especially late. So what we can do in the interim, so for folks who are doing shift work, for example, even though they work overnight, they still have consistency. This is the number one thing I would help them to do. To produce adequate melatonin, you need 2 things. You need a consistent body clock, and you need darkness. So if we can get this other piece handled, so folks who are, they get off of work at 7 a.m., I would have them to get the most effective blackout curtains, get their room so dark that even at noon, they can't barely see their hand in front of their face. That's going to trigger your cells to produce more melatonin. Your cells need darkness, and they need a consistent pattern. So make sure that you get yourself a nice, cozy little cave to sleep in when you do sleep. Make sure that it's nice and cool as well. Of course, we could have talked about some of the science on that. And you got to stack conditions. If you're going to do what you're doing, you have to stack conditions in your favor, as many things as you can. All right. Unfortunately, again, I'm not going to lie to you. Your body does not like to be thrown about in different irregular patterns. But the beautiful thing about humans and the human spirit, we can adapt to many things. You need to make sure you're taking care of your immune system. You need to make sure that you are getting, adequate time on the mattress in darkness, and just to help to buffer some of this stuff. All right. So that's a tough one, but, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think we can even create some consistency. If you are working night shifts a couple days a week, then you have a time every day that you come home and maybe it's first thing in the morning, you put on really good eye shades, if you can't have that dark room, and you do have that consistent bit of sleep, even if it's at an odd or, a time that isn't the middle of the night. And then when you wake up, set your alarm for the same time when you wake up, even if that's, 1 p.m. Do the same thing when you wake up. Drink, your cup of lemon water or whatever it is, your mushroom elixir, and create some sort of consistency with what you're working with. And we appreciate what you're doing, it's needed work and it's real. So consistency wherever we can find it. So we're already at our time. I want to give people that have to go. We made a discount code. It's MODEL. This is Shawn's code. So you can use MODEL at forsigmatic.com on any of our products and get 10% off your order. Of course, this whole month, we're really featuring Mushroom Cacao with Reishi, as you learned so much about why that is such a perfect product for resetting our system, being able to chill, have that balance, really take us out of that crazy state of stress that we're so often caught in today, and really enable us to get that deep night of sleep. So if you have to hop off, we'll just say thanks for being here. And Shawn, you're amazing. Thank you for all of the incredible information today. It's been so awesome. I have maybe one more question, if you have time, that I think is a good one to wrap up.
Let's do another 5 minutes if we can.
Cool. If you have it, I'm so in. So this is from our lovely friend Chase Tuning. Hey Chase, and he says, with everything you have learned and applied about sleep health, do you have any hypothesis about an area of our wellness related to sleep that has not yet been discovered or proven?
Dude, Chase, I love you. I actually mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's the first time I ever really talked about it. And we don't have like black and white details on this, but for me, it's just like sometimes the research is just like hovering around this topic or this tenet. And that's the importance of hydration for our sleep quality, and I promise you, I know it. Either I'm going to, fund the research myself. This is going to come about, and we're going to see a direct causation of dehydration being related to suppression of our sleep quality. and specifically all the processes the body's doing while you're sleeping. And again, I mentioned your lymphatic system, cleaning your brain, but also there's just a tremendous amount of metabolic waste that get produced. When you're sleeping, it's like magic time for your body cleaning house, and everything is happening in a water medium, so even the microbes that we've been talking about, all of that's happened there. All of this stuff is built on water, and so when we're deficient in this is the number one nutrient, the number one, right? After, oxygen, but water, it's the overlooked macronutrient. There's five, there's not just three macronutrients. Water is critical, so and when people are like, well, what's the fourth?
Yeah.
Alcohol. Alcohol is the fourth macronutrient. Your body can use alcohol for sure. But when alcohol comes in, oh, this is so cool. So anyways, I'm not going to get into it too much, but in Eat Smarter, I talk about this phenomenon that takes place called fat sparing. Alcohol is a usable energy, but your body cannot store it. So it will immediately stop messing with everything else and use that alcohol. So it spares the production, shuts down the burning of other fuels, specifically stored body fat. And is it a problem? I don't know. You'll find out in Eat Smarter.
Oh, what a tease. Okay, I can't wait to read your book, and I think all of us can't as well. When is the book coming out? How do we get it?
December 29th. It'll be available nationwide. There's also a few other countries you're going to be able to get access to it. And, everywhere books are sold, you can pick up the book when it's released. But what I want everybody to do is you can get it right now. You can pre-order the book, and I put together a 10-video mini course, 10 videos for free that everybody gets access to immediately when they pre-order the book. I don't know how long that I'm going to keep that around, but it's 10 foods that have some of the most clinical evidence, just stacks of clinical evidence on their ability to help to kind of optimize our fat loss related hormones. Wow. So folks can get that for free at eatsmarterbook.com. Pre-order the book from your preferred retailer, and then you get that mini course, and folks just are loving the mini course. It's so awesome. I have my team, and we put together a really, really great course that people can just dive into immediately.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. I'm going to go pre-order it right after this. Do you want one more question? How are we feeling?
Let's go. We still got 2 minutes.
Okay. We got this. Okay. This is related to water and hydration. And I think it's important because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And Yolanda wants to know, is it extremely important to drink half your body weight daily when drinking water? Basically, what's the right amount of water for us to drink?
Yeah. So I'm one of the people that kind of put a metric like that out there, but it's because it's such a challenging thing to dictate. Again, I don't like these generalizations of like, we need to drink 8 glasses of 8 ounces a day, or drink half your body weight in ounces a day. I struggle with that. Mm-hmm. However, some folks, like, they just need to know what to do. Like, just tell me how much to drink. And so I use that as a kind of a barometer. Like, if you're unsure, take your body weight, divide it in half, whatever number you get, those are the number of ounces to drink. So if you're 150 pounds, divide that in half, is 75. Target 75 ounces is a good place to revolve around. Now, the very best metric for determining how much water you need is listening to your body. Yep. All right. It's crazy. I know that this is like a taboo thing, but if we were more tuned in to our bodies, we're so externally focused. What we have a master regulators of our thirst signals, of our hunger signals, and our hypothalamus specifically in our brain is really integration of our nervous system and our endocrine system. And it's one of the things that's regulating your thirst. And it's also the thing of regulating your hunger. So these messages can get crossed up a lot too. Now, the big issue today that nobody's talking about in the diet paradigm is how much hypothalamic inflammation is affecting creating an inability for folks to lose weight. All right. They're not telling you on their diet framework, just only eat purple foods, or only, cut out this entire macronutrient. That inflammation in your brain is going to determine everything that your body's doing with those macronutrients. Right. So, and this, what comes into play here? What helps to reduce fire, inflammation? Water, hydration. This is one of our biggest problems as a society, just being chronically dehydrated. And so that's how much water plays into the picture. So how much to drink is going to depend on you, your activity levels. I'm a big fan of waking up in the morning and drinking, 20 to, maybe even upwards of 30 ounces of water to start your day, just to give your body that inner bath. Like I mentioned, so much happens at night with metabolic waste being produced. You need to flush that stuff out, So if you get out and get yourself a nice jump on your water intake for the day, and just be a little bit mindful. And another little tip is just simply keep your water with you. If you have it around, it's much easier to drink, So get a bottle that you like, a little cute little bottle, or like a real tough, it's got like, I don't know, Thundercats on it, whatever, like something that you like. It's like your little companion. And if you have it around, you have a tendency to drink more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I'd also add just focusing on quality over quantity. I've worked with so many people that they're drinking so much water, but the water is deficient in minerals. And so their body actually isn't absorbing and being hydrated. And so, adding that lemon, whatever slices of, cucumber, berries, or whatever you're adding to your water, that trace mineral drops, there's so many ways to maximize your water so that our bodies can actually utilize that water and become hydrated. And yeah, this idea of thirst. I mean, there's been to work with, pro athletes, and it's like there's this whole list of science of like this much sugar and this much potassium and this much salt. And it's like we've come to this place where it's like the best metric to knowing when your body needs water is thirst. Right. And so it becomes taboo because it's so simple, but our body is brilliant, and our bodies will tell us what we need. And so how can we do these little things to get more in touch to the body's messages? It's constantly giving us messages, and how can we tune in, and I think that's the best guide, listen to nature, listen to your body. We know what to do. It's just feeding us the right things, like slowing down, being more mindful. You guys all got it. Okay. Shawn, you are a true gem. This has been so much fun. I wish we could do this for like 5 hours next time. I want to pick your brain in 100 different directions. But again, just thank you so much for being with us today. This is recorded. It's going to be up on YouTube. You can all go watch it and share it with your friends, and go order Shawn's book. I know I'm going to do it right now. And check out the Sigmatic.com. Go get your mushroom cacao with reishi, and have a deep night's sleep tonight. Thanks again, Shawn.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody.